Hey to all those sick and vibrant health, it's Dr. Rachel Northern, and tonight I'm talking about a very important topic, one I haven't really talked exclusively on before, and it's about diabetes. So the title we gave it is Let's Beat Diabetes, Understanding Your Insulin Resistance and Conquer Diabetes. So insulin resistance, we're going to talk about what that means related to diabetes. And this is one statement that you should pay attention to. Insulin resistance is one of the foundation to all chronic diseases. So it's a metabolic thing we need to make sure to have under control. Otherwise, it's leading to most of our or all of our diseases. It's got a foundation in that. So our agenda today is to talk about what is insulin resistance and kind of explain that. We have some pictures for that. The risks of having high blood sugar. So most people think of diabetes. They know it's that your blood sugar is not right. You have to test maybe your blood sugar. Something is involved with sugar in the blood. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more detail. Common mistakes when we're assessing diabetes, and then treatment options for diabetes, or just the combination that leads to diabetes. So hopefully we can prevent diabetes happening in the first place. So, how do we become diabetic in our country? I've talked multiple times. There's a lot of the same comment I say. It's what you do with this and what you do with your butt. So you're moving, what are you eating? How does it happen? Well, our culture, unfortunately, has just got an unhealthy trend of everything we do. So these are some things that might trigger you thinking that maybe you're becoming insulin resistant or getting close to diabetes. Is like if you have hormonal imbalances, you have elevated blood lipids or triglycerides, you crave sugar, if you are overweight or obese, especially in the region, that's one thing. Fatigue, like you just can't, even if with rest, you don't feel like you're just tired all the time. And you're constantly hungry, which means like the sugar is not, glucose is not getting in your tissues. Or another common thing is thirsty as well. And then you just can't lose weight, even though you try to lose weight. So that might be because the body is using your fat to try to process your hormones, and it wants that fat to help you survive. So here's a good example of how we can just kind of simplify. A normal process is when you eat something, your body should be able to break it down into sugar or glucose, the simplest molecule, and then that triggers your body to release insulin from your pancreas, and that should be going. Then both of those are in your bloodstream, and the insulin tells your tissues to absorb it, and then you absorb the glucose. And then we start over again. So it should be a healthy cycle, and we'll talk about how it should happen. And what's happening with insulin resistance is, even though the insulin's coming in here, your tissues are not responding. They've been abused, it's been overused, and the tissues are no longer responding like they're supposed to, because it's probably been where you have this yo-yo sugar dump because our diets are bad and it's mostly sugar, and then the body overuses it, and the tissues finally go like, I'm done, I'm not listening to your signals anymore. And unfortunately for that makes your glucose stay in your bloodstream, which then can lead to what we talked about last month, leads to heart problems, valve problems. So we want to make sure that we address this issue. So results of chronic high insulins, like comorbidities, the other things that factor into this is diet and proper movement. So if you're not eating like you should, we're going to talk about what we should be eating, you're not moving like you should, those are going to contribute. What's your stress like? Are you stressed? Are you just constantly going? Are you constantly in your head? Are you constantly having deadlines? What is your environmental exposure? We're going to talk a little bit about that. That I'm going to definitely go into more detail on next month when we do our annual or biannual thing of detoxification of how to get healthier in your body, and that does help your sugar levels as well, and then chronic inflammation. So these are things that we're doing. A lot of times the external factors that we can have some control on that lead to actually us having a problem with the insulin. And then we have these other factors that go in. So maybe, you do have a predisposition to heart disease in your family, or type 2 or diabetes in your family, sugar issues, or maybe mental dementia, all the mind. And then also we have the polycystic ovary syndrome, which is when the hormones are imbalanced, like we talked about before. So these are things that we really need to pay attention to. If you have some of these family histories, that's an even more reason why to try to see what things you can do for yourself to make your body healthier, to be less insulin resistance. So diet and movement, that's the first topic we talk about here, is diet. So it's the same diet, no matter how many times I do talks, and every time it's just the same thing, but it's eating healthy, eating whole, making sure you get daily fruits and vegetables, moderation in grains. Make sure you're getting your healthy oils, your olive oil, your avocado oil, some nuts and seeds. Those are really good for us. Those are really good for the cell processes. We have fish and then your poultry and stuff, and as we go up, we should have less and less amounts of these. So this is something I talked about. Also, how do you do things? Are you doing 3 meals a day? Are you intermittent fasting? That's a talk you can look up. I've talked in the past about. You can research that all day long. But how are you eating? Are you eating all day long and dumping sugar into your bloodstream all day long? Are you giving your body a break, the tissues a break? So also, are you getting enough protein? That's the number one thing I notice when I do my histories in my office, that majority of patients coming in, unless they're a bodybuilder or really on top of it, are not getting enough protein. So I pretty much say now, everybody, just more protein and healthy proteins. So movement, it's up here, it says sitting is the new smoking. That was like over a decade now that research came out that if you sit more than 6 to 7 hours a day, it's almost equivalent or worse than smoking cigarettes. So I'm glad the trend of sit-stand desks have taken on, and it's been very popular the last several years. And that has helped some of my patients to get up so they're not sitting so many hours a day. But unfortunately, a lot of people still are in our society. Talk about modifying what you do. Make sure you, like on your breaks, if you're sitting at your desk for 45 minutes, get up and move around if you can. Or if you get out of a meeting, take the stairs if you can, or do a little lap around the house if you're at home. Try to get at least 5 to 10 minutes of movement before you sit down again. Anything is better than nothing. So, even do maybe put some rubber bands, some stretching things for your shoulders at your desk, those stretchy bands, the exercise bands, something to get moving. And I was just reading today, it was like one of those Atomic Habits, I like that book. I get his weekly emails, and it was just saying, just doing one little thing, the starting part is the hardest part. Just starting, and so if you just start small with something that you can achieve, and then get motivated and do that, and then you can build on that from there. Now, I know you got those personality types that are all or nothing. I'm married to one. Either he's all in and doing everything and has to be all gung-ho, or he's not. So what's happened through the years is he's doing all in more frequently through the year versus not. So we're kind of inching closer to more healthy overall. Making sure, you try to get where you're doing light activities, aerobic activities, but the more active and with the breathing, get that cardiac rate up, the better you're going to be. If you are exercising, there's studies showing that your insulin will be absorbed better. It actually helps your insulin absorption. So that's really important. So the stress factor. So here's a couple ways that we are stressed in our society, particularly. We don't sleep enough. So how's your sleep? Or maybe your shifts, you have a second shift or third shift working. You've got to try to figure out how you can get really good sleep. Try to figure out, make sure you're going to sleep at the same time and trying to get up at the same time. The inflammation. Do you have like autoimmune diseases? Do you have, back pain and joint pain, which is great because I, as a chiropractor, that's part reducing that inflammation because of improper alignment is great for my work because we help people a lot very easily, which is the chiropractic adjustment and restoring the balance in the skeleton, the nervous system, stress off the spine, and that reduces inflammation pretty quickly. So that's really nice that's something I can do as a chiropractor. But some of these other things, like we have gut issues that are having problems, food allergies that causes stress in the body. We have mental anxiety, depression, all these mental health issues we have nowadays. We have restless minds, so that's why I like to talk about too, trying to make sure you take deep breaths and meditate. And then what we're talking about today, blood sugar imbalances. So, this is talking about skipping. So if you skip meals, and this is like more of the person, I'm not talking about intermittent fasting, but the people who are like literally not eating all day long. And I know several people like that, and they don't eat all day long, and then they eat junk food once they do eat, and they're eating for 3 or 4 hours of chips and snacks and all that, and then that's just, again, dumping a lot of sugar. Then it also causes like stress on the hormone side, the cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and you start to get this yo-yo, which increases then your inflammation in the long run. And then we'll get some charts later on talking about that inflammation. Environmental exposure, these are things that some things we can control and some things we can't control. If you live in a city and you're constantly exposed to all the gas off and all that in the city, pollution, you can't really make a difference on that. But there's things you can do with like healthy household cleaners, getting a water filter for your water, making sure that you're trying to get like eating organic so you're not getting the pesticides, or at least making sure you wash your fruits and vegetables before you eat them. Paying attention to what kind of radiation. You're not living next to a tower of some sort to get bombarded with like all those waves. So paying attention to those like things that you can control, that are within your control, avoiding air things like those Febreze and candles that are polluted, sometimes even with lead. Some of these candles you get from like the cheap stores have like lead in them. So you don't want to be burning that. That's not good. It's a heavy metal and it's going to be causing stress on your body. Obviously lifestyle toxins, fast food, etc., etc. We know these things. I will talk more about these next month. Let's see what else. One of the main things is this plastics, the heavy metals, and the pesticides. They're the top 3 that have caused stress on the heart and increase your risk of diabetes. Now this one is this is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease right here, right? As is become the number 1 reason for liver transplants. And the transplants, aren't easy to get. It takes sometimes years, and some people don't live to get that transplant. And the liver is a pretty resilient organ. It takes about 75% it to be not working for it to fail. So this is happening, and a lot of it is also contributing to like not just sugar, but the high fructose corn syrup, which is pretty much in everything. They replace that with sugar, or that's a replacement for sugar, juices, and so many things. I read labels all the time, and it's amazing how much stuff this is in, and I just can't, I'm like, oh, nope, can't have that because it's got high fructose corn syrup in it. So me trying to live a clean life. So this is the graph I was kind of alluding to before about, so someone gets injured, you twist your ankle, you have acute reaction, it you kind of spike. Your body cleans up the area because there's damage there. Inflammation brings the fluids in there and the little cells that need to repair that area, and then it should be, go down after a period of time. It should spike. The healing process, once the healing process is done, it should be resolved, and you should move on to it should be back to normal. Well, what's happening with all the sugars and everything is people are just stuck in this inflammation, and not only it lasts for days, it's now lasting years and sometimes decades, where you are just in a constant state of inflammation, and that is not, that's going to cause all the diseases and cancers that can occur, because the body really is never able to shut down fully. It's trying to repair, and then it's unfortunately in the process of repair, it's just stuck in this damaging cycle. So what can we do? You don't have to be perfect. We just talked about, get some movement in, eat properly. This is like most of us, we kind of have a mixture. Like only 3% of society eats great, does everything perfect in their diet, exercises perfectly, does all the things they need to do. It's a very small percentage, and those people are, they're just super disciplined people and crazy. It's very rare. Most of us fall in here. So, and then there's about 38% that don't even try. So we're pretty obese in our society, and everybody just says, "Oh, why bother? It is what it is. This is my body, and this is our society," and they just are kind of in the victim mentality. So, but most of us can be making a difference. So if you try to do the best you can, majority of the time, trying to eat healthy, do what you need to do. That's kind of my thing. I may be like 80 to 90%, depending on the month, if it's summertime or Christmas time. I'm always trying to make sure I'm getting my fruits and vegetables every day. I try to just only have maybe one dark piece of chocolate, probably maybe once a day or a couple times a week. That's kind of my little treat. Once in a great while, I go out and get ice cream. But otherwise, most of the time, I'm trying to do the good things for my body. So, that's kind of where you want to try to aim towards. Now, I'm a little bit more disciplined. Part of that is because I've grown up in this healthy culture. Us chiropractors tend to gravitate to the healthy things because I want to be healthy when I'm in my 80s. I want to still be able to be active with my grandkids or great-grandkids. I want to have that longevity. So my goal is to make sure that I can get there and feel pretty good there. So I have a long-term goal for that. So you got to see, what do you want? What kind of things do you want for your future? You have that delayed gratification is hard, I know, as Americans, but it pays off in the long run. You just have to have something you want to look forward to with your goals. So here's a list of supplements that has been known to help with diabetes and sugar handling and insulin resistance. Now, the main thing is lifestyle. Like, you need to put in some of the work for it to work the best. I don't like to give supplements and just you don't do anything. It's not like let's manipulate your body with the supplements. Now they'll help you and it'll help your body, but if you're not doing the movement part, you're not trying to do the diet part, if you're still going to get fast food every day, these things aren't going to necessarily help you the most. So these are things that are supposed to supplement. That's what supplements come from. It's supplementing to your lifestyle, because we know we can't get enough nutrients in our foods nowadays because they're just over-cropped and deneutralized. Like, there's less nutrients in them is what I mean. So we have some multi-minerals and magnesium. Magnesium's really good for overall just their muscles and help with prayer and relaxation, and it helps with the stress. There's some studies from seminars I've went to that said that's another mineral that we're deficient in overall in our society. Omega-3s, those are our healthy fats that we need. So we're making sure we get like the EPA and the DHA, and so the cold water fish. So I tell people 1 to 2 grams of that a day is ideal. So So I myself have trouble with that because I don't eat fish every day. So I supplement that. I take a flaxseed oil or a fish oil to help me make sure I get those. Vitamin D3 is also one that we know, especially where we are at in the Midwest, we pretty much know everybody's vitamin D deficient. And, they just only started testing the vitamin D like kind of really consistently in like maybe the last decade. I've been in practice 20 years, and I talked about that way before that. And we know everybody needs pretty much vitamin D, even our kids at this point. So I have chewable supplements here that help the kids get it in as well. And it's been really good, especially to boost the immune system as well, not just with the insulin, helping with the sugar handling. CoQ10 is another one that's helpful. That kind of just addresses, again, the vascular system. Quercetin is helpful for antioxidants, and the Veratrol is like what you get, like we got the picture here of our dark colored fruits and beans and stuff. So like your blueberries, your blackberries, your dark grapes, this is where people say, oh, it's good to have a glass of wine. Unfortunately, that wine's pretty much pure sugar. So the wine, it kind of counteracts the resveratrol in that. So I generally suggest to try to supplement that. That's also been a big market in the last decade, where people have made a lot of these like mini drinks to do like berry drinks to get that concentrated resveratrol in there, and it is a very good thing to help. Berberine, so that's my new favorite. I've been taking it for I think 2 or 3 years now. I have some sugar handling issues just in my genetic makeup, and after I started taking this, it's been amazing how much my blood sugar is leveled out, and it's pretty awesome. So I've had really good results personally with this, and I've had some good results with some patients. But again, I always like to do a personal plan with every patient to see what exactly they need. So I'm kind of just giving you the whole kitchen sink of everything. But generally, as a doctor in the office here, I actually try to go through and see which supplements actually work for the patient uniquely. So we got the lipoic acid. So that is actually again, the deep greens. So if you're actually getting your spinach and your Brussels sprouts, also it's in liver. Most people in our society don't eat liver. So, trying to get your deep, rich greens, most people aren't doing that. So let's supplement some of that. Green tea is known to help with some of this, as well as it helps with antioxidant. Chromium. So chromium and cinnamon both help insulin work better. So those two are really good for that. And then N-acetylcysteine helps with creating our glutathione, which is one of our most powerful antioxidants, to help just clean up free radicals and things in our body, which we are constantly producing. So there's a couple of the supplements we talk about. So, treatment usually, if there's a blood sugar issue, say your sugar fasting glucose is high, or just your regular glucose is high, say on a lab, most of the time the doctors monitor it. They might check for hemoglobin A1C. You should be about 5.6 or lower. So you want to make sure that is not higher. If that's higher, that's saying you are having a sugar insulin resistant problem. You are having some going into diabetes at that point. So traditional medical recommendations are, they do polypharmacy. They'll do some drugs that help manipulate the body to try to get your insulin, your sugars down and get everything working. They'll do diuretics, different things. They'll tell you to start moving and eating less, but they kind of just say, just go out there and, do something. They're not really skilled on training you or teaching you what to do. That's where I'm really good with some of those exercises, telling you kind of ways to coach you to do things better, since I studied the human body and skeletal muscular system, so I do really good on that. Functional medicine side, or the holistic side, is let's actually talk about your diet. Let's talk about how you're eating. I actually give you a food diary and actually have you fill it out, and then we discuss your eating trends and how we can change things, give you some options, give you some handouts, and pick some foods out that you can try some new things, which we talked about last month. Also making a look at like where you're deficient on some of your nutrients or minerals. So in the office here, I do a hair analysis, and we get a mineral profile of what's kind of spilling out in your hair, what minerals are spilling out, so we can kind of see some trends and seeing if you're deficient in certain minerals. And then from there, we can also see if you have some toxic minerals or metals coming out in your hair, which is going to be, like we talked about, stress on the body. So those are things I can look at to help me get a good idea, along with the assessment and symptom survey. And those things give me a good idea how we can personally help people and move in the right direction. So let's see here. All right, so here's just a case study. This is not my personal case study. This is one that was in the research. So there was a middle-aged person that came in, small business owner / and mother. This was me about 15 years ago. I do have it's kind of a type A person. I'm kind of chilled out in my 20 years in practice now, but I used to do it all and thought I could do it all at the time, and the little ones and the soccer mom and the business owner stuff. So stressed out. I remember always saying back in the day, I'm overwhelmed. But I just kept doing it and kept going and pushing forward. Because of my genetics, I didn't have the trouble losing weight, but this particular case study did. Her medical doctor told her she had her A1C, like we talked about, was pre-diabetic, was saying it's getting really close to that borderline of high. And that pretty much just told her it's your body, it's what you're doing, and you just take this medicine, and that's it. And she didn't want that. She wanted to go more natural. And so she, came in. This was a different doctor she saw, and they've assessed their stress, her sleep patterns, what her diet was. Like I just talked about food diary, talked about like bowel habits. It's funny in a history when I go over people, I ask them, do you poop once a day? What's all these things? Do you drink water? People look at me like, you're a chiropractor. Why are you asking about these things? And it does. It's overall your health. These are telltales of things going on with you. So, what nutrient deficiencies you possibly have. So we, found out what would work for her, and then they found out that, and then we go from there. So right here, so for her, there was a lot of stress, like we talked about. So we talked about how we can, they talked about how to mitigate that, her to handle that. I have lots of videos we talk about of like meditating and breathing. You can go back into my YouTube channel for that. So they did a personal thing, addressed what we could do, and lots of times if you do these changes, you can reverse and go down. Now, if you're so far down that you've pretty much killed off your pancreas, then it's pretty hard to do. You've just totally made it where that organ is not working anymore. But most of the time, if you can just do the things and stop stressing it, you can pull back and have that. So I have had several patients come to the office that were that borderline, or even maybe they were the type 2, and as they changed their things, they were able to get off medications, or they decreased all their numbers looked good. They call the blood work looked really good. So, medications should be a tool. It should be a life sentence. So that tool is manipulating your body. And if you want that and you don't want to do the efforts for taking care of your body, then just realize you're going to have more and more issues down the road. It's not fixing you. It's just keeping you alive until everything concludes together. All those comorbidities accumulate, and then those things will take you out. So, medications work, and I'm not anti-medication, but there should be, temporary if that's what the situation is, if it's not a permanent damage problem. So here, chiropractic was great for reducing stress, chiropractic adjustments, so that's great. We take stress off the nervous system. That also helps relax things and helps puts the two sides of your nervous system into balance, and you have a stress nervous and your sympathetics, and you have your parasympathetics. So adjustment, it helps you kind of bring back to that rest side of the nervous system. Okay, so what's great is I help people all the time. I love what I do. I love being a chiropractor. If you're interested in trying to approach this way, if you want to not just sit on your butt and be a victim and want to like actually make changes and move down that healthy track, like I said, Journey to Vibrant Health is a book we'll talk about, one of my books. And I talk about that, like taking ownership of your health. If you want to take ownership of your health and see if we can make some improvements, I want to help you with that. I want to partner with you with that. I cannot do it for you though. So any patient that comes in and they just want me to fix them, I'm saying, sorry, you're in the wrong office. I will not fix you. What I can do is restore balance and give you recommendations for you to do yourself. Yeah, trust me, I wish somebody else could work out for me. I wish somebody else could eat for me. Those are kind of time killers for me, but I have to do it. I have to do it myself. You have to do it as well. So there's an assessment I can do in the office. I can, like I said, I talked about the hair analysis. There's different things we can do to try to assess where you're at. You got to make appointments though. You got to come into the office to get this done. I do sometimes, if they're out of a state or far away, we can do appointments over the phone, and we can send you the kits for hair analysis, which is nice. And if you get blood work, we can always look at that, and we can do consults over the phone. Most of the time, people are around here, they come in, we do a personalized treatment plan, make sure it's catered to you and what your personality or whatever we can do for you. And then other ways you can also help yourself. Say if you're way far away from me, I have tons of videos on my YouTube channel that you can watch to help get you started. So I'm going to show you my information. So I said I'm a family wellness chiropractor. I have certification in pregnancy and pediatrics. I love working for the whole family. My goal is to have all the families healthy. I want my community, all my families healthy in my community. I talked about the Journey to Vibrant Health. You can find on Amazon. thedoctorandyou.com is my website if you want to reach out or email information if you're looking for more information. Like I said, my YouTube channel is Dr. Rachel DCCA CCP, and I think and then our phone number here at the office, if you're local and you want to come in and make an appointment, is 815-344-0113.